In 1980s, the worst thing that happened at spring break was lost underwear. But now a new warning from the State Department says a lot of really bad things could happen to students heading to Cancun or Cabo this year at the hands of the Mexican drug cartels. That was just one of the many shootouts between the cartels and the Mexican military. Of course, the Mexican military long ago abandoned the border. The cartels control everything there as effective narco states. But the resorts used to be off limits because the amount of money they brought in. New reporting reveals the cartels now don't care about the old rules anymore. The 80-mile stretch from Cancun to Tulum, a lot of folks have been there, now features wet T-shirt contests and cartel gun battles. Former staff operations officer from the CIA's Counterterrorism Center and former FBI agent Tracy Walder is with us. Everybody says, oh, every year the State Department issues this warning. Is this different, or is there reasons to just kind of say, you know, I don't know, don't flash cash and keep your passport in the safe and have a good time?
Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't let my own child ever go to Mexico, quite frankly, on spring break if they were in high school and those kinds of things, because that's something that's very popular to do. In my opinion, it's not safe. Right now, I think this warning, in my opinion, looks different because you're right, Leland. This is something that comes up really every year, quite frankly. But there's a few things that I noticed about this warning that's a little bit different. The first is the one you touched on, in that the resorts are no longer off limits. Basically, cartels are fighting with each other within the resorts, and tourists are being sort of caught in the crossfire, if you will. The second piece of this warning that I thought was really interesting that we don't always see, because a lot of times it's really focused on cartel violence, as it should be, is the mention of drugs, unregulated alcohol, and pharmaceuticals. And so I thought that was interesting. That was a very interesting piece of this warning as well. Those are the differences that I saw.
What are we to sort of, as we think about, and you and I have talked a lot about the cartels that push fentanyl up into the United States, a lot about the Chinese connections. What is it to say that the Mexican government has now lost control of the one area that they had put off limits for the cartels?
I think, I mean, really what it's to say is that Obrador has no control over the military. I mean, just a few weeks ago, there was an article that came out that he was repurposing the military for things like filling potholes. So really, I mean, manning the planes, manning the trains. And that's not something that they should be doing. That is not the purpose of the Mexican military. And so really, he stretched them way too thin, and they're not serving the purpose that they were intended to serve.
All right, so U.S. travelers to Mexico, 33.54 million in 2022. They want it to go up to 40 or 45 million coming up in the next couple of years. You and I have talked a lot. Not naming the cartels terrorist organizations is different than treating the cartels as terrorist organizations. At what point do you think the United States government, the U.S. military, your former colleagues in the CIA and the FBI are going to have to start treating the cartels as terrorist organizations and narco states rather than simply drug gangs?
Look, Leland, I'm with you on that. I think that should have started decades ago, quite frankly, but I guess no one really cares what I think about that issue. I believe and I hope that the federal government does that soon, although I don't feel very hopeful about it, quite frankly. But in my opinion, treating them as terrorist organizations really puts the full measure of the federal law and federal prosecution against them, because that's really what they are, quite frankly. And I don't even understand why we're parsing it out, really, because it would be much more beneficial to us to be labeling them as terrorist groups.
Yeah. All right, Tracy, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.